What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about trade targets, and what that means is we're going over buy low players and sell high players. The first player is obviously Auston Matthews, currently rocking the lowest shooting percentage of his entire career if the season were to end today at 8.9%. Matthews may not score 69 goals again, but he's still the best goal scorer in the NHL, and the Leafs power play has been atrocious. Yes, that could be a cause for concern, and yes, I have some minor concerns about this power play. But if anything, there is only room for growth here. I do think this power play is eventually going to get going, and that is obviously going to help Auston Matthews. Some people may be concerned about the Leafs splitting the usage for the first and the second unit, having Nylander on the second unit, having Matthews on the first. I understand your concerns if you are concerned about this, but I really don't think this is going to last, guys. Eventually, sooner than later, they are going to run a dedicated first unit, and the Leafs are not going to have a 10% power play percentage. It's unsustainable, and Matthews could be a great target in a trade right now. The next buy low is Jack Hughes, rocking an 8.7% shooting percentage. He's still an elite talent, guys. I understand this is not the start that we were hoping for, especially considering how good he was the season prior at the start of the year. So, yeah, I understand there are some concerns that people have with him. 12 points in 14 games is not great, but he's still an elite talent. He is still on a very good offensive team, getting elite deployment. And I think that he may be a little bit rusty to start the year because he did have that offseason shoulder surgery. So that could be the cause for a slow start. I think in general, Jack Hughes is a player that you're getting a discount on currently. And down the stretch, he could be an absolute league winner. Next up, we have another Leafs player, and that player is Mitch Marner. The reason that he's a buy low is because he only has 2 goals in 13 games, which is not sustainable, guys. He's rocking a 5.6% shooting percentage compared to a 12.8% career rate. And what's really promising about Mitch Marner is that he's had very good even strength production. 10 of his 14 points have been even strength. And I think there's only room for growth when it comes to this power play, guys. I talked about it when I was discussing Auston Matthews just a bit ago. And yeah, right now the Leafs power play percentage is second worst in the NHL, sitting at 10%. So once this power play gets going, it is going to help Mitch Marner, and you're going to get a discount on him right now. Next up, we have Zach Hyman of the Edmonton Oilers. Yes, he has 3 points in 2 games, so the window may be closing. And he is playing tonight as I'm recording this. He's playing in about an hour. So there is a chance he has a big game, and you're not going to get the same discount that you would before this big game. With that being said, guys, he is still a massive buy low to me. I've been telling you guys to buy low for quite some time now. He has 4 points in 12 games, only 2 goals, rocking a 6.1% shooting percentage compared to a 13.5% career rate. He's top line with McDavid, who is returning soon. He's deemed day-to-day right now on the top power play unit. Yes, he's not going to score 54 goals, guys. We knew this. But he is still going to be an elite fantasy hockey player. So if you can still get a deal for him, I suggest you do it. The next player I suggest you target in a trade is Verhaeghe of the Florida Panthers. And the reason for this is because he only has 2 goals in 13 games. This is not sustainable, guys. He's rocking a 3.8% shooting percentage compared to a 14.3% career rate. And if he was shooting at his career average, his normal rate, he would have 7 goals in 13 games, guys. He's taking a ton of shots, and those goals are going to come very soon. You just need to be patient with Verhaeghe. Top line with Reinhart and Barkov, top power play unit, averaging the most ice time of his career, 19 minutes and 15 seconds, compared to the previous 2 seasons where he was averaging less than 18 minutes per game. So, yeah, very promising stuff with him. Barkov just returned as well, guys. There was a bunch of games where Barkov was injured, which didn't help Verhaeghe in fantasy. So Barkov's back, deployment's elite, shooting percentage is super low. Buy low before it's too late. The next buy low player is Jesper Bratt of the New Jersey Devils. He has 13 points in 14 games, which is good, but only 2 of these points are goals, guys. 2 goals in 14 games. The good thing for Bratt, though, is that he's rocking a 5.7% shooting percentage, which is unsustainable. His career average is 12.1%. He's still on a line with Jack Hughes. He's still on a power play that's top 10 in the NHL. And he is a very talented player, guys. So the goals are going to come very soon, and you might be able to get a discount on him at the current moment. The next buy low player is Connor Bedard of the Chicago Blackhawks. 12 points in 13 games is good, but he only has 3 goals in these 13 games, which is definitely not up to the expectations that we had for Bedard going into this year. So yeah, I think the goals are going to come very soon. He's rocking a 6.7% shooting percentage compared to a 10% career rate. I understand it's a very small sample size, but typically a 6.7% shooting percentage is not sustainable. He's obviously top line, even though his line mates are not the best. The power play, even though it's doing okay, it's not going to be the best. I understand those concerns with Bedard in that regard, but Bedard is one of those players that down the stretch could be an absolute league winner. So yeah, I'm just betting on talent here. I'm betting on him to score more goals. I still think 35 plus goals is possible, maybe even 40 goals. And yeah, I feel like you're going to get a better deal on Bedard than you would previously before the slow starts. So yeah, definitely a fan of trading for Bedard because he has that league winning potential. The next buy low player is Jason Robertson of the Dallas Stars. Listen, guys, I don't love what the Dallas Stars do with their lines. I don't love what they do with their power play. And as long as they're mixing up the usage for both the first and the second units, the top dogs on the Stars are going to have their ceilings massively capped. Now, even though I say this, we do have to recognize that Robertson has 7 points in 11 games. That is not sustainable, guys. It's a 53-point pace. He's still a point per game player. And in these 11 games, he only has 1 power play point. In the last 3 years, Robertson had 28 power play points, 41 power play points, and 21 power play points in 74 games in 21-22. So, yeah, currently the Stars power play, what's going on with Robertson and other Stars players, it is not sustainable at all, okay? The power play points are going to come, and you are going to get a pretty nice discount on Robertson currently. So even though he may not return to his 22-23 self, he is still a very good buy low candidate. The next buy low player is Jordan Kyrou of the St. Louis Blues. And listen, guys, I do have to tell you that if you do trade for him or you're currently holding him onto your team, you may have to go through some growing pains and some struggles because with Robert Thomas out, that is absolutely negatively affecting Kyrou and all the other Blues players too. With that being said, if you're a savvy fantasy hockey player and you're thinking long-term, you're thinking about your fantasy playoffs, Kyrou's a guy that I would definitely love to buy low on at the current moment. When Robert Thomas comes back, this is going to massively benefit Kyrou. He's still a very good goal scorer who can score 35 goals. He has a 7.9% shooting percentage currently compared to a 13% career rate, so his 3 goals in 12 games is unsustainable. And he's a guy that loves to shoot the puck as well. So he has an edge in the shot department. And I think when it comes to the fantasy playoffs down the line, when you need him the most, he's a guy that can have some really big games and some really big weeks. So definitely a fan of buying low on Jordan Kyrou. The next buy low player is Steven Stamkos of the Nashville Predators. No, I wasn't high on Stamkos going into this year, guys. And we aren't seeing the best out of Stamkos and the Nashville Predators. But the fact remains that he only has 5 points in 11 games and only 1 even strength point. I don't think this is sustainable, and you may be able to get a massive discount on him in a trade. I obviously do have concerns about the lack of even strength production and his age. I do have concerns about him going to a new team, the power play, having 3 righties in Marchessault, Stamkos, and Forsberg, the chemistry of that power play. But we do have to recognize that his deployment is still very good. 19 minutes and 9 seconds of ice time per game on the top unit, getting very good power play time. And his goal scoring is unsustainable at the current moment. 6.1% shooting percentage compared to a 16.6% career rate, guys. The goals are going to come very soon. And yeah, I just think you're going to get a massive discount depending on how much of a casual league you're in. Obviously, the savvy fantasy hockey owners know that Stamkos will eventually bounce back. May not be the Stamkos that we know from the Lightning, but I still think he's capable of scoring 30-plus goals and 65 to 70 points. So yeah, definitely buy low in Steven Stamkos. Try to get a good deal, and I think it will work out. The next buy low player is Wyatt Johnston of the Dallas Stars. Obviously, a very slow start for Johnston. Only 1 goal and a total of 6 points in 11 games. I'm sure a lot of people are panicking about Johnston. I'm sure some people have dropped Johnston in a more shallow league. But I do have to address some of the major buy low signals that we have to look at here, okay? 19 minutes and 13 seconds of ice time per game for Johnston. 2 more minutes than last season. He only averaged 17 minutes of ice time per game last season. So we have a 2-minute bump from last year. And that 19 minutes and 13 seconds of ice time per game this season is leading all Stars forwards. We are getting very good ice time from Johnston, and also his power play time is solid as well. 2 minutes and 52 seconds of ice time per game, fourth on the team, a minute more than last year in terms of average power play time per game. Yes, they split the usages. I don't love what they're doing with the power play. I don't love how they give the 1B unit more time than the 1A unit on some nights. It's very annoying. And I also don't love that they have Wyatt Johnston parked in the front of the net on the power play. I get they're trying to replace Pavelski, but he should be in the Braden Point type of role, because I feel like you're just wasting his talent on the power play by just parking him in the front of the net. So yeah, those are some concerns and some things I don't like, but we have to recognize the deployment, like I said, which is a huge bump from last year. And also, his shooting percentage is 4.0% compared to a 14.2% career average. Ultimately, the goals are going to come very soon. The deployment is there. He's 21 years old and scored 32 goals last year, despite being on the third line and on the second power play unit. So, yeah, I'm still very high on Wyatt Johnston. He may not be, a point per game player, but I think he could produce at a point per game pace for the rest of the year if things go right. So, yeah, massive fan of Wyatt Johnston still, and I suggest you buy low. Next up is Jonathan Marchessault, 2 goals in 11 games, only 7 points, and right now he's rocking a 5.3% shooting percentage compared to an 11.5% career rate. So his current goal scoring is unsustainable, and also his deployment is very good. It's a very promising sign, the ice time that he's getting. 18 minutes and 30 seconds of ice time per game currently, which is the most he has averaged in his entire career. He's getting good even strength and power play time. The goals are going to come very soon. He takes a lot of shots. I think his hits are okay as well if your league counts those. And I think you're getting a pretty good discount on him in a trade. So definitely a very good buy low target. Then we have Ryan-Nugent Hopkins. 1 goal in 12 games, only 5 points. Very disappointing start, but the fact remains that when McDavid is healthy, he's on the top line with McDavid and Hyman. I know they switch it up sometimes, but he's still going to be playing alongside elite players, even strength. He's on the top power play unit, a power play that should be top 5 in the NHL. It struggled early on, but it's going to improve, guys, and that is obviously going to help Ryan-Nugent Hopkins. And 19 minutes and 26 seconds of ice time per game, elite ice time, 5% shooting percentage compared to an 11.9% career rate. He doesn't put up the best peripheral, so it depends what type of league you're in. But in general, Nugent Hopkins still has the ability to have some monster games and some monster weeks in this offense, on this power play with his line mates. So definitely a massive fan and a good buy low opportunity. Next, we have Owen Tippett of the Philadelphia Flyers. I wish this guy could hit the net when he shoots, but we have to address the fact that he only has 1 goal in 12 games, only 6 points. He has a 3.4% shooting percentage compared to a 9.5% career rate. He's a guy that takes a lot of shots, puts up a lot of hits, so very good peripherals, very safe floor baked in. He's getting solid ice time. I know it's been kind of wishy-washy with the Flyers struggling, and we know how Torts likes to shuffle the lines up and bench guys, etc. But still, 17 minutes and 18 seconds of ice time per game is very solid. They're giving more power play usage to the first unit compared to previous years, which will help Owen Tippett. I understand the Flyers are looking like a mess right now, but I do think Tippett will bounce back. I do think the goals are coming very soon. And if your league heavily values peripherals, Tippett could be a very good buy low. Next up, we have Juraj Slafkovsky of the Montreal Canadiens. I know he's injured right now. He should be returning very soon, but he's a buy low because he only has 1 goal in 9 games. Slafkovsky is going to be power play 1, line 1 for the entire year. He puts up a lot of hits if your league counts those. And he's a young player that could break out and improve as the season goes on. So come the fantasy playoffs or the last month or two of the season, he could be very valuable. Okay, next up we have Nazem Kadri of the Calgary Flames. He's not a player that is like a screaming in-your-face buy low type of guy. Very stable shooting percentage. And I understand it's a little bit concerning, his production. 6 points in 12 games, minus 10 on the year. I understand the concerns with Kadri, and I do have my own concerns about him. But the fact is that 6 points in 12 games is not sustainable, guys. That's a 41-point pace. And Kadri is not a 41-point player. I think if you're in a deeper league, you should buy low in Kadri, depending on your league settings, of course. I would say if you're in a league like Yahoo, like a default Yahoo points league where shots are heavily valued, Kadri is a great trade target, and he's usually underrated in those type of leagues because he has that massive edge in the shot department. I don't think Kadri is going to put up 75 points like he did last season, but I still think he's capable of putting up 60 plus points, 25 plus goals, taking a lot of shots, and putting up okay hits as well. So with all that being considered, I think you're going to be able to get a pretty good discount on him right now, and it should pay off. Next up is Dylan Cozens of the Buffalo Sabres. This is a deeper league buy low, guys. I understand that he could be on your wire currently, depending on your league size. But the reason why he's a buy low is because he has a 2.8% shooting percentage, 1 goal in 12 games, 1 goal on 36 shots. His career average is 10%. I think he is going to bounce back, guys, not just because of this low shooting percentage, but also because of his deployment. His deployment has been very good, guys. 18 minutes and 7 seconds of ice time per game, the highest of his career. He's also on the power play 1 as well. That's something that was a little bit up in the air to start the year. They had Jack Quinn on the power play over him, but Cozens has been on this power play 1 for a decent amount of time now for the season. So yeah, there's a good chance he's top 6 power play 1 for the entire year. He takes a lot of shots. The goals will come very soon. And this power play should improve, guys. They have the worst power play in the NHL, around 8%. So yeah, I do think that the Sabres will see a bump very soon in power play points, and that will help Dylan Cozens. The last buy low forward we need to have a discussion about is Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks. Now, I tweeted about Elias Pettersson. I told you guys to buy low, and I still think he is a buy low. I mean, if you're looking at his numbers, right, like 4 points in 10 games, only 1 of these points being goals, 6.7% shooting percentage, that is completely unsustainable. With that being said, I would suggest buying low on Pettersson. I mean, there's no reason why he shouldn't produce at a point per game level. I mean, last 2 years, 102 points in 80 games, 89 points in 82 games, power play 1 in the top 6, 19 minutes and 21 seconds of ice time per game. He's a young player too, guys. He's 25 years old on a very good offensive team. So listen, even though I do think the Canucks were going to see some regression this year because they had a very high on-ice shooting percentage, all their players overperformed, there is no reason why Pettersson shouldn't put up 75 plus points. The only reason I have a tiny bit of hesitation is because there are some rumors that he's dealing with this tendonitis issue that he dealt with last year, because he was dealing with it during training camp, during the offseason. And that's one cause for concern where I'm like, okay, maybe this is a little bit of something that is affecting him, because since he got that tendonitis issue last season, he has something like 27 points in like 59 games or something absurd, guys. So yes, he has not looked good out there. He is not playing well, but the other stuff is screaming buy low to me. So I have some conflicts with that. I do have some hesitation, but I do think if you can get a very good deal for Pettersson, it could pay off. We don't have an official report on a flare-up from Pettersson. We don't have an official report saying, yes, he's dealing with his injury, it's got him worse. And we really only have vague reports talking about his leadership or his drive or his motivation after signing the contract. So yeah, I would be patient with Pettersson if I owned him. I'm sure he's getting dropped in some taco leagues. And yeah, I would definitely buy low on him if I can get a good deal. I'm not saying to trade for him if it's an even deal. No, but if you can buy low on him and get a pretty good deal, trade a sell high guy for Pettersson, it could probably work out for you. All right, moving on, guys. Let's talk about some defensemen. We have a decent amount of defensemen here, but these 4 would be my favorite right here. Roman Josi, Evan Bouchard, Rasmus Dahlin, and Dougie Hamilton. With Roman Josi, it's pretty obvious. This guy was a buy low last year as well. He had a slow start. He only has 1 goal in 11 games, 2.0% shooting percentage, still taking a lot of shots, still looks very good out there. And yeah, he's a beast in fantasy hockey, guys. Absolutely buy low if you can. Evan Bouchard's another massive buy low. He is playing tonight, though, and he could put up some points, and that window could be closed. But yeah, 7 points in 12 games, only 1 power play point for Bouchard compared to 35 power play points last year. The power play points are going to come. The Oilers power play is not going to sit at 12% or whatever it is right now, guys. They will have a top 5 power play in the NHL. McDavid's returning soon. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to buy low on Bouchard. I'm setting out trades for Bouchard as much as I can. Then with Rasmus Dahlin, this is also another case of this power play improving. Buffalo has an unsustainable power play percentage at only 8%. Their power play may not be the best. Maybe it's bottom 5 the entire year, but their current power play production has not been sustainable. So expect more power play points from the Sabres and Dahlin very soon. Dahlin only has 1 goal in 12 games, 3.1% shooting percentage. He's still a beast when it comes to shots, hits, and blocks. He's still getting elite ice time, and he has that big spike week potential with all of those other Sabres players involved. So yeah, definitely a massive fan of buying low on Rasmus Dahlin. Then the fourth guy is Dougie Hamilton of the New Jersey Devils. There is that tiny risk that Luke Hughes gets back on this top unit, but the Devils' power play has been very good. So unless it struggles, Hamilton's going to stay on there. Now, the reason why Hamilton is a buy low is because the goals, guys. The goals are going to come very soon. He only has 1 goal in 14 games with a 2.2% shooting percentage, guys. 1 goal on 45 shots. This is unsustainable. He's going to score more goals very soon. He's running the top power play unit, a power play that should be top 5 or top 10 in the NHL. Puts up good peripherals. He's on this dynamic offensive team. And we saw what Hamilton could do running this top power play unit 2 seasons ago, where he had 22 goals and 74 points in 82 games. With that being said, yes, there's a little bit of risk, but I would definitely be a fan of buying low on Dougie Hamilton. Now, with the rest of these defensemen, I would say they're good options. They're not the best options like the 4 defensemen I just spoke about. These options are Miro Heiskanen, Noah Dobson, and Charlie McAvoy. Now, Heiskanen is overrated in fantasy, guys. We knew this. The peripherals are not the greatest. We had that concern with the power play usage. But the fact is that he only has 4 points in 11 games and 0 goals. This is not sustainable. He's still averaging 25 minutes of ice time per game. He's still leading the Stars in power play time per game. And yeah, the points are going to come soon, guys. He may not be a 73-point player like he was 2 years ago, but he is still easily a 50 to 60-point defenseman that should rack up power play points as well. So no reason not to buy low on him unless your league is like a Bangers Cats league that heavily values peripherals. He's a little bit overrated in those type of leagues. But yeah, no reason not to buy low on Miro Heiskanen. The points and goals are going to come very soon. Next up is Noah Dobson of the New York Islanders. I do want to say that I don't think he's going to put up 70 points again. 60 points could also not happen. I think he could be like a 55-point defenseman this year. But the fact is, 0 goals and 6 assists in 12 games puts him on a pace of 0 goals and 41 points in a full season, and that is not sustainable. So I do think that he is a solid buy low defenseman. With that being said, though, I do have some concerns. Obviously, you're going to have some struggles and some growing pains in the next 4 to 6 weeks with Matt Barzal out with an injury. That's going to affect the power play. That's going to affect Dobson's production, losing your best player. Duclair is out with an injury as well, which doesn't help. I do have some concerns with the way that they're running their power play as well. They've been splitting the usage for both units, which doesn't help Noah Dobson. Yeah, I mean, there are some concerns. I do think in the short term, he will struggle with Matt Barzal out, but I do think down the stretch, when Barzal's healthy and they get this power play figured out a bit, he will start producing like he did last year. Not like a 70-point pace, but definitely a solid second or third defenseman on your team that puts up really good peripherals. So yeah, at a scarce position like defenseman where you need to find those top guys, I think Dobson could help you in the long run. The last player here, Charlie McAvoy. I do have some concerns, obviously, with the Bruins playing bad. They put Lowry on the top unit 2 games ago, but last game they put McAvoy back on. So there's still that looming risk with Lowry, even though I don't think that's going to happen, guys. I think that's a very unlikely situation. So yeah, even though I do have some concerns, I do think right now his production and what he's been doing is not sustainable. He only has 4 points in 13 games. I still think he's a 50 to 60-point defenseman. Yeah, I mean, he's also a guy that puts up really good hits too. If your league values those, puts up good blocks as well. So he's good in those peripheral banner leagues that count hits. So yeah, if you're in that type of league, I think you should buy low. Lastly, we have some buy low goalies. We have 3 goalies here. The first goalie being Jeremy Swayman of the Boston Bruins, guys. 4 wins, 4 losses, 1 OT loss, 3.16 goals against average, .895 save percentage. Not the best season for Swayman so far, but this is only through 9 starts. The Bruins, they could easily get it together. They still have a very strong defensive core. I do think that the numbers that we're seeing from Swayman is not sustainable. So if you need a goalie, I think Swayman is a very good buy low target. Now, last year, Saros was disappointing, and we're getting very similar numbers to last year, so I can't give you 100% probability that he is going to bounce back to what we've seen from him before. But what we do know about Saros is that he has been notoriously a very slow starter, guys. Just look at the splits for the last couple of years with Saros. The months of October and November are usually very bad. So just looking at historical trends here, I do think that Saros has the chance to bounce back. If you're in a points league, like a Yahoo default points league, Saros is an absolute stud. He has been the best goalie in 2 of the last 3 years in total fantasy points in those type of leagues and in most points leagues, right? Lots of shots against, plays 60-plus games, which is becoming increasingly rare in the NHL. Yeah, he gets peppered with shots. He's still a very talented goalie. The Predators find ways to be streaky and to bounce back. So I could definitely see myself buying low on Juuse Saros if I can get a good deal. Moving on, let's talk about some sell high players. And a big disclaimer I have to say when I'm talking about sell high players is that a lot of these players I'm about to mention, I'm still massive fans of, guys. There's a lot of players on this list that I love in fantasy. I think they're going to be very solid for the entire year. But even though I like some of these players, we do have to recognize that their production is unsustainable, whether that be their goal scoring or their power play production or something else, some other metric. We do have to recognize that these players are overperforming. They're very likely to cool down, and you may be able to sell high in them and get a very good deal. With that out of the way, let's talk about these sell high players, starting with the most obvious one, that being Necas of the Carolina Hurricanes. Now listen, I like Necas. I drafted him a good amount. I talked about him being a big sleeper. But we do have to address the fact that he has 18 points in 10 games, which is an 82-game pace of 147 points. And also, he has 8 power play points in 10 games. This is a 65 power play point pace. It's crazy. He's almost hit his power play point total from last year. He had 13 power play points in 77 games. He has 8 in 10 games. And yeah, even though I think he's going to be solid for the rest of the year, I do think 30 to 35 goals is possible. 65 to 70 points is definitely possible. Even though I think that he is absolutely a sell high. I also want to say one more thing. Yes, we can look at his numbers and objectively say that it's unsustainable, but we can also look at his even strength line mates as another reason why he's a sell high. Jesper Bratt is a center. His line mates have been Jack Rosevich, Eric Robinson, etc. Some of these guys that are not second liners on most teams. So that's another reason to sell high on Necas. The next sell high player is Matt Duchene of the Dallas Stars. If you guys can get a good deal by trading Matt Duchene away, I'm absolutely begging you to do it because this is an absolute no-brainer sell high player. He has 7 goals in 11 games, 15 points, 6 power play points in these 11 games as well, guys. This is a player that is not on the first unit. He is on the second unit. And last season, he had 16 power play points in 80 games. He already has 6 in 11. So completely unsustainable production, not only even strength, and also on the man advantage. And just look at his shooting percentage, 35% compared to a 13.4% career rate. His ice time, only 16 minutes and 13 seconds of ice time per game. It's down from last season. There's no reason why you shouldn't sell high on Duchene if you can. If you're in a more casual league, you may be able to get a decent buy low player. So absolutely sell high on Matt Duchene. The next sell high player is Mark Stone of the Vegas Golden Knights. Yes, I do like that he's line one with Eichel. I do like that his power play is looking better. But right now, his production is very unsustainable. 20 points in 12 games, 8 power play points in 12 games, guys. The Vegas power play is going to cool down. This is completely unsustainable power play production for Mark Stone. And he has a very high shooting percentage as well at 20.8%. So yeah, I do think he's a sell high player. He doesn't put up the best peripherals, especially his shot volume is not very good. And we do have to address that he has not played more than 65 games since 2016. So yeah, this guy is a Band-Aid. An injury could very well happen very soon. And I just think you should capitalize on his increased value and try to win in a deal. Next up, we have Dylan Strome of the Washington Capitals. He has 17 points in 11 games. I understand there are some good things about Dylan Strome. He's had a lot of this production come from even strength versus the man advantage, which is always a promising sign. His shooting percentage is high at 21.1%, but it's not crazy high compared to some of these other guys, right? Strome's career average is 14.8%, so not the biggest difference, but ultimately, Dylan Strome is not a player that's going to put up 80-plus points. He is a guy that doesn't put up very good peripherals, so he's already at a massive disadvantage. And right now, they have Connor McMichael on the top power play unit over him. I do think Strome will get back on this top power play unit at some point. But yeah, I just think 17 points in 11 games is not sustainable, so you should sell high. Next up, we have Cole Caufield of the Montreal Canadiens. Yes, I like Cole Caufield. I talked about him quite a bit going into this year. I do think he still has the chance to score 40 goals, but his current goal scoring is not sustainable. 10 goals in 12 games, 29.4% shooting percentage. It's definitely concerning that he only has 1 assist in these 12 games as well. So yeah, I do think he's still a very solid fantasy player. 40 goals is possible, like I said. But if you can sell high for a buy low player like Carter Verhaeghe potentially, maybe some of these other guys I talked about on the buy low list, Jason Robertson, etc., I do think you will win the deal in the long run. Maybe Robertson isn't the best example, but I would trade Caufield for Connor Bedard. I would trade Caufield for Jesper Bratt, Carter Verhaeghe, like I said, Zach Hyman. I could package him in a trade for Mitch Marner or Jack Hughes. I would get creative in selling Cole Caufield because his goal scoring is unsustainable. The next sell high player is Tim Stützle of the Ottawa Senators. I will say that I do think Stützle has a potential to be very good for the entire season. I'm still a big fan of him. He was my second most drafted forward this year in fantasy hockey, guys. 33% of my 115 best ball teams have Stützle on them. So yes, I like Tim Stützle, but unfortunately, his current production is not sustainable. He has 16 points in 11 games, 6 of these being goals, and currently his shooting percentage is sitting at 27.3%. His career average is 13.3%. The goal scoring is going to come down. The power play production may come down as well, guys. 6 points in 11 games have come from the man advantage. The power play sitting around 33.3%. Yes, it could stay around there, but it's unlikely to stay around there, guys. I do think the power play will cool down. That's going to hurt Stützle. I do think he's going to be really good for the entire year. I think he can put up 85-plus points, but if you can sell high and capitalize on his increased value, it could help you in the long run. Next is Nikolai Ehlers. I think he's going to be great all season long, but I do have some sell high signals that we do have to discuss. 25% shooting percentage compared to an 11.9% career rate. Unsustainable goal scoring, obviously, 8 goals in 12 games. The even strength protection has been good, but his ice time has not gone up despite getting on the top unit, which I don't like. 15 minutes and 49 seconds of ice time per game is still not the greatest. So yes, I think that 70 points is possible for Ehlers. I think he's going to be great all season long, being on this top unit. But I do think that you could be able to sell high and get a good buy low player in return. So for that reason, he is on this list. Next up is Nico Hischier of the New Jersey Devils. He's on the top power play unit. He looks very good out there. So only sell high in him if you can get a really good deal. But the reason is to sell high is pretty obvious, right? 10 goals on 14 games, a 22.2% shooting percentage. I do think that the production is going to cool down, and he's going to return to a 75 to 80 point player and a 30 to 35 goal scorer. So yeah, if you can sell high and get a very good deal, I suggest you do it. For the rest of these players, I'm just going to list them off. These players either have unsustainable power play point production, unsustainable goal scoring, or unsustainable production in general. So that is why they are on this list. And yeah, the rest of the players here are Jared McCann, Drake Batherson, Anze Kopitar, Thomas Hertl, Brock Besser, Claude Giroux, Josh Norris, Tyler Seguin, Connor McMichael, Pavel Dorofeyev, Ivan Barbashev, Sean Monahan, Alex DeFerrier, Sam Bennett, Anton Lundell, and Ryan Donato. Like I said, high shooting percentages for most of these players. Some deployment concerns as well with some of them like Tyler Seguin, Claude Giroux, who's not on the top unit, Barbashev, who's not, Dorofeyev, who might not be top power play, when Olsen comes back, McMichael, who could get taken off the power play in favor of Dylan Strome, and some power plays that are unsustainable as well, like Drake Batherson, Josh Norris, etc. Okay, lots of reasons why they're sell highs, but that's the rest of the forwards. The only two other forwards I want to mention here are Alex Tuch and Timo Meier. The reason why they are sell highs, in my opinion, is because there is the risk of them not being on the power play one for the entire year. More so Timo Meier than Alex Tuch, but that is a legitimate concern that is going to cap their ceiling. So for that reason, I would consider trading them away. With the rest of these players, Rasmus Andersson, very obvious, 11 points in 12 games, not getting any power play points out of these 11 points. Yes, he could get on this power play one if this Flames power play continues to struggle. It's a weaker spot at the current moment. But in general, this production is completely unsustainable. So sell high if you can. The next defenseman is Neil Pionk. This one is very obvious, guys. 13 points in 12 games. 4 power play points as well in 12 games, despite not being on the first unit. Last season, he had 8 power play points in 82 games. The season prior, he had 3 power play points in 82 games. So yeah, just completely unsustainable production on the man advantage for him. Only 20 minutes and 54 seconds of ice time per game, 10% shooting percentage, high of his career. And yeah, I mean, the last 2 years before this, he had 33 points in a full year. So even though his peripherals are great, I get it. You need to sell high before it's too late. If you're in a serious league, you probably can't do it, but in a more casual league, you could definitely trade him away and get some value. So yeah, send some trades out. The next sell high player is Alex Pietrangelo. He has 12 points in 12 games, a point per game player. None of this coming from the man advantage because he's not getting a lot of power play time. Yeah, I just think this is an easy sell high to me, even though he is very good in some leagues when it comes to peripherals. So yes, he has that safe floor baked in. He could be very solid depending on your league, but if you can sell high on him, you could get some good value. Next, we have Shane Gostisbehere. Listen, I think Gostisbehere has a chance to be very good all season long because of his power play deployment. He could put up 30 power play points, guys. That's certainly a possibility. But we do have to recognize that he currently has 5 power play points in 10 games. That's a 41 power play point pace. Currently unsustainable. And his even strength production is not very good. 18 minutes and 46 seconds of ice time per game is not going to cut it. That's what we expected out of Gostisbehere. But I do think because of this and because of the way that he's playing, 9 points in 10 games, you could sell high in him for a buy low defenseman like some of the defensemen that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, definitely a sell high player, even though I think he still could be good. I also want to mention he has a 17.4% shooting percentage, way higher than his career average. I think if you can sell high on him for a player like Miro Heiskanen, Rasmus Dahlin, some of these other guys that I talked about, Noah Dobson, Dougie Hamilton, maybe you can package him in a trade for one of these defensemen. I think it will pay off. Then finally, Brandon Montour of the Seattle Kraken. I do think he is getting a little bit of a boost because Vince Dunn is out on the LTIR. This is giving him more ice time, more power play time. But the fact is that he has 9 points in 12 games. I don't think that's sustainable on this Kraken team. Obviously, he had that 4-point night. Yeah, I do think that you could get a deal for him potentially for some of these buy low defensemen. So yeah, try to do it if you can. And finally, we have a guy that's non-power play one, Jake Wallman. He had back-to-back 3-point games. I'm still a fan of him. I have him in one of my leagues. He puts up really good peripherals, so he's still a hold in a lot of leagues. But the main problem is that they traded for Timothy Liljegren, and they put Liljegren on the top power play unit right away. I still think Wallman has a chance to get back on this first unit. I wouldn't be surprised, but there is some concern that if he's not on the first power play unit for the entire year, his ceiling is going to be massively capped. So if you could potentially capitalize on his recent performance and get him for a buy low guy, it could work out. Then one last thing with the defenseman here, the sell high defensemen that are completely obvious that you're not going to be able to get value for unless you're in a super casual league would be Owen Power, Jake Middleton, and Colton Parayko. Finally, let's talk about sell high goalies, and I only have one goalie on this list, that goalie being Lucas Dostal of the Anaheim Ducks. Listen, I think Dostal could be solid for the entire season, but we do have to look at his numbers, a 2.22 goals against average and a 937 save percentage, and be realistic in saying that a Ducks goalie is not going to have these type of numbers. You also have the looming threat of Gibson eating into those starts. I think Dostal is the guy, and Gibson could easily be moved or become the backup goalie at this point. But still, he's not going to finish with these type of numbers. And that means if you can sell high in him, you could get a really good deal. If you're in a serious league, people won't entertain these trade offers, but if you're in a more casual league, I would try Lukas Dostal for Jeremy Swayman, Lukas Dostal for Juuse Saros. Doing some of these trades is going to help you in the long run. So even though Dostal could be very solid long term, he's absolutely a sell high at the current moment. All right, guys, that is the end of the video. Hit that like button if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I will catch you in the next one.